The morning sun glinted off the scope of Emma Hayes's rifle as she steadied her breathing. At 19, she was the youngest and only female recruit in the elite sniper training program. The weight of expectations hung heavier than the weapon in her hands. 20 pairs of eyes burned into her back as she prepared for her qualifying shot. Most of them were waiting, hoping even for her to fail. She'd heard the whispers since day one. Too small, too young, too female for this line of work. "Don't hold your breath, kid," sneered Jenkins from behind her. "Save yourself the embarrassment and just walk away now." Emma blocked out the noise and focused on her target just as her grandfather had taught her back in Montana. The old Vietnam vet had placed a rifle in her hands at 12, recognizing something in her that others couldn't see. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind, and it's even crazier. Master Sergeant Hathcock, grandson of the legendary Marine sniper Carlos Hathcock, stood silently evaluating her form. Unlike the others, he'd never dismissed her outright, though his expectations seemed impossibly high. Emma squeezed the trigger, and the bullet found its mark dead center. "Lucky shot," someone muttered as she rose to her feet. The following weeks tested Emma beyond her limits. While she consistently outscored half the men in marksmanship, the physical training left her muscles screaming. Each night she collapsed into her bunk only to rise before dawn for extra practice. Her fellow recruits had formed tight bonds, but Emma remained an outsider, eating alone and training alone. "You calculate differently," observed Captain Reynolds one afternoon, watching Emma make adjustments for a long-range shot. The visiting instructor had studied under the techniques developed by Chris Kyle, and something about Emma's approach caught his attention. "Your instincts are good. Trust them." It was the first genuine encouragement she'd received since arriving. The breaking point came during the paired exercise. As her assigned spotter, Jenkins deliberately gave her incorrect wind readings, causing her to miss 3 consecutive shots in front of the entire unit. "See? The kid can't handle real-world variables," Jenkins announced triumphantly as Emma's face burned with humiliation. That night she packed her bags. As she headed toward the administrative building to withdraw, a figure emerged from the shadows. "Giving them what they want?" The woman's voice carried a slight accent. Major Ivanova had served 3 tours and was visiting as a tactical advisor. Her reputation preceded her. 27. "Confirmed kills in combat conditions that would make most soldiers crumble. They've already decided I don't belong here," Emma replied. "They said the same about Lyudmila Pavlichenko. 309 kills later, they stopped talking." The major stepped closer. "The question isn't whether they think you belong. It's whether you're willing to prove them wrong." Emma unpacked her bags that night and doubled her training regimen. She studied the techniques of legendary marksmen like Rob Furlong, who held records for extreme distance shots. She practiced in rain, in high winds, at dawn and dusk, understanding how light affected trajectory. 2 months later, their unit deployed to a contested mountain region where insurgents had been threatening supply routes and civilian evacuations. Emma had graduated from the program, barely, and with little ceremony, but she'd earned her place in the field. Their unit was tasked with providing overwatch for a refugee convoy when intelligence reported a high-value target had been spotted setting up an ambush point. The problem? He was positioned on a ridge 4,000 meters away, well beyond typical engagement range. "No one's making that shot," Lieutenant Parker declared, studying the satellite imagery. "Not with this crosswind and elevation difference. 3 senior snipers attempted and failed." With each passing minute, the convoy drew closer to the ambush point, carrying over 60 civilians, including children. "We're out of options," Parker said grimly. "We'll have to radio the convoy to turn back." "I can make the shot," Emma said quietly. The team fell silent before Jenkins barked out a laugh. "Try it, kid. Go ahead and embarrass yourself one more time." Parker hesitated, then nodded. "We've got nothing to lose." Emma set up her rifle and began her calculations. The shot would require accounting for extreme bullet drop, a 30-minute pH crosswind, temperature variance between her position and the target, and the curvature of the Earth itself. She'd need to aim at a point that seemed absurdly divorced from the actual target. "You're aiming at the clouds," Jenkins scoffed. Emma ignored him, making tiny adjustments. She regulated her breathing, slowing her heart rate as her grandfather had taught her. The world narrowed to her scope, her calculations, and the distant figure preparing to take innocent lives. She squeezed the trigger. The shot seemed to travel in slow motion across the valley. For 7.2 excruciating seconds, no one breathed. Then, through his high-powered scope, Parker confirmed, "Target neutralized." Holy hell, she did it. The convoy passed safely. Word of the 4,000-meter shot, one of the longest confirmed kills in military history, spread quickly through the ranks. That evening, as Emma cleaned her rifle, Jenkins approached and silently placed a cup of coffee beside her. "That wasn't luck today," he said gruffly. Others followed, asking about her calculations, her techniques. Sergeant Hathcock eventually joined them. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said. "Carlos used to say the most important weapon a sniper has isn't the rifle. It's patience." Emma nodded, allowing herself a small smile. She hadn't joined to make history or break barriers. She'd joined because she was born to do this, to protect others from a distance, with precision and calm. The nickname Kid remained, but its meaning had transformed. No longer an insult, it had become a call sign, spoken with respect. In a single shot, Emma Hayes hadn't just eliminated a threat, she'd shattered every limitation others had placed upon her. The wind howled across the barren mountainside as Sophia Wilson pressed her body against the frozen earth. At 5'4", she was the smallest member of the elite Marine Scout sniper unit and the only woman. The pre-dawn cold bit through her tactical gear, but she remained perfectly still, her breath shallow and controlled as she peered through her scope at the target 800 meters away. "You've got 10 seconds before they rotate guards." "Kid," came the gruff voice of Commander Jackson through her earpiece. The nickname had stuck from day one of training, not as a term of endearment, but as a constant reminder that many believed she didn't belong. Sophia made minute adjustments to her rifle, a weapon she'd come to know better than herself. 3 heartbeats later, she squeezed the trigger. The training dummy's head snapped back as the bullet found its mark dead center. "Lucky shot," muttered Sanders, one of the veteran snipers, as they packed up after the exercise. His dismissive tone matched the sentiment of most of the unit since she'd arrived 3 months ago. Sophia said nothing. She was used to it by now. Despite being a 4th-generation military legacy, her great-grandfather, Sergeant William Wilson, had earned the Medal of Honor in Korea. She'd faced skepticism at every turn. Commander Jackson, who had served alongside legends like Dakota Meyer, had made it clear her acceptance into the program was a reluctant concession to changing times. Back at base camp, Sophia meticulously cleaned her rifle while the others gathered around Sanders as he regaled them with stories from his last deployment. She worked silently, listening to their easy camaraderie, a circle she remained firmly outside of. "Wilson," Commander Jackson's voice cut through the chatter. "My office, now." The room fell silent as she rose, all eyes following her. In Jackson's sparse office, a visitor waited, a weathered man with sharp eyes and a British accent. "Captain Fraser, SAS," the stranger introduced himself. "I trained with Craig Harrison some years back." Sophia straightened. Harrison had held the record for the longest confirmed kill shot for years. "Your file says you scored top marks in advanced ballistics," Fraser said, studying a folder. "Yet you're struggling in team integration." "With respect, sir, I'm not here to make friends," Sophia replied. Fraser's lips twitched. "No, you're here to become the most lethal guardian angel in existence. And you can't do that if your team doesn't trust you." The next morning, Captain Fraser took over their high-angle shooting training in the mountains. While others struggled with the complex calculations for shooting from steep elevations, Sophia's adjustments were flawless. "It's just math," she explained when Fraser asked about her technique. "My father taught advanced physics. We calculated bullet trajectories for fun." Fraser nodded thoughtfully. "Impressive. But can you do it when it matters?" She would soon find out. During qualification week, disaster struck. As Sophia prepared for her final long-range assessment, her rifle malfunctioned, the firing pin snapped, rendering the weapon useless. Tough break. "Kid," Sanders said, not bothering to hide his smirk. Guess some people just aren't cut out for this. The whispers grew louder. Equipment failure wasn't uncommon, but the timing fed the narrative that she didn't belong. That night, instead of sleeping, Sophia disassembled her rifle completely. Drawing on techniques she'd read about Carlos Hathcock using in Vietnam, she modified the firing mechanism and balanced the action perfectly. The next morning, Major Rebecca Collins arrived at the range. The decorated officer had served 3 tours in Afghanistan with special operations units, and her presence commanded immediate respect. "I heard we had a Wilson in training," Collins said, approaching Sophia. "Your great-grandfather saved my grandfather at Chosin Reservoir." For the first time, Sophia felt a connection to the unit's legacy that went beyond her own determination. With Collins observing, Sophia aced her requalification, setting a new course record. 3 weeks later, their unit deployed to support a humanitarian mission that had gone sideways. Civilians were trapped in a village with hostile forces closing in from the surrounding mountains. The unit established an observation post on a ridge overlooking the valley. "We've got movement," Sanders reported, his scope trained on a distant peak. "Enemy spotters setting up. Range is, Christ, over 4,000 meters," Jackson swore under his breath. "Too far for a shot. We need to warn the evacuation team they're being watched." "If they're spotters, they'll have communication with the main force," Sophia said quietly. "If we warn our people, they'll know we're on to them and change tactics." "What do you suggest, Wilson?" Jackson asked, irritation evident in his voice. "I can make that shot," she said. The silence that followed was broken by Sanders's laugh. 4,000 meters? The world record is barely over that, and it was set with perfect conditions. We've got variable winds, humidity, and fading light." "Try it, kid," Jackson said sarcastically. "Show us what you've got." Sophia set up her position, calculating variables that most snipers would find overwhelming. She factored in the Coriolis effect, spin drift, temperature gradients between valleys, and the curvature of the Earth itself. "This is a waste of time," Sanders muttered. Sophia tuned everything out. The world narrowed to her breathing, her calculations, and the tiny figure in her scope almost 2.5 miles away. She exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The shot seemed to hang in the air forever. 8 long seconds later, Sanders's shocked voice broke the silence. "Target down!" "I don't believe it." Through their scopes, they watched the enemy position fall into chaos. Without their spotter, the main force held position, giving the evacuation team critical time to move the civilians to safety. That evening, as the unit huddled around a small heater, Sanders approached Sophia with an extra ration of coffee. "That was one hell of a shot, Wilson," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Just math," she replied with a small smile. Commander Jackson joined them, his usual stern expression softened slightly. "Your great-grandfather made impossible shots too," he said. "Some things run in the blood?" Sophia nodded, feeling for the first time that she truly belonged. The nickname Kid remained, but its meaning had changed. No longer a dismissal, but a call sign, earned in the field where it mattered most. As darkness fell over the mountains, Sophia Wilson cleaned her rifle by the light of a tactical lamp, no longer alone,